Hey, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you might be. Uh, this is Glenn Setchfield, VP of Marketing for DMI. Welcome to today's DMI University webinar, Turning Idle Assets into LTC Protection. We're excited for today's session because this is exactly the kind of strategy DMI wants to bring to advisors. It's practical, it's timely, and it's built around stronger client outcomes. And we're especially proud to do that through our partnership with Annexus. So if you don't know, Annexus is one of the leading independent product design and distribution companies in the country. And they're known for building smarter retirement solutions and driving innovation across annuities and indexed universal life. And the Nexus is only available to about 5% of financial professionals, which makes our partnership extra special. So, really proud to have Steve Poppy with us today. But their work is built around a simple but powerful goal, and that is helping create better client outcomes. And that's part of what we're going to talk about today. So joining us today from Annexus is Stephen Poppy. He's a national life specialist who brings more than 30 years of industry experience helping advisors turn product strategy into real client conversations. And from DMI, we're joined by Keith Schettino, a VP of Life Sales and a true advisor first resource who helps agents, planners, and RIAs design smarter life insurance solutions with confidence. And just to get the most out of this presentation today, please use the Q&A function. And then we've also got some surveys that Maureen Walker is serving up for us. Please get engaged there, and that helps us to cater this or I guess make this a little bit more special, a little bit more specific to you. So let's get it started. I'm just going to turn things off over to Steve and Keith, and we'll do a little bit of a roundtable today. Thanks, guys.
Glenn, appreciate it. Stephen, awesome to see you. Thanks for participating.
Thank you.
So, we have a really interesting conversation to have. Um, this is something that I find myself working with advisors on a day-to-day basis, uh, really looking at the opportunity of taking what we perceive as idle assets and trying to address the big elephant in the room with clients of how are you going to put in play long-term care protection plan. If a client came to you and said, as the advisor, they came to you and said, I have had this ailment. I need to have X amount of dollars for care. This is how my program is going to start at home, and I'm slowly going to progress to potentially adult daycare or nursing home. Where are we getting that money from? So we want to have a conversation to help you, the advisor, really transition some of the assets that you're already talking to them about and working with your clients about and put them in a solution that we feel offers 2 or 3, 4 times the benefits available. And part of it's an education process, uh, really getting to the meat of what is the client's goals and needs. So we want to take those idle assets and turn them into a solution with 3 or 4 benefits for your clients. You as advisors, you know that there's an exorbitant amount of money available. We're constantly having, dollars transfer from one annuity product. It might be a MYGA, rolling it over to another one. Clients may have CD money just sitting in cash. There's about $66 billion moving this year. And we have a lot of that is being done through maturing MYGA business, multi-year rate guarantee annuities, and CDs that are rolling over and over and over. If you were to really look within your book of business and kind of track how that money progressed, if you are writing those solutions and offering those solutions to your client, that money probably just sits there. A multi-year rate guarantee annuity, if you're looking at a 5-year bucket, it's really more like a 15-year bucket because all you're doing is rolling that money over and over again. So you're trying to capture whatever the rate is at the time. Um, so the question we'd like to pose, are you part of that decision, or how can we have a conversation to bring in some other alternatives to discuss to really be more impactful with that decision? Because being in the financial world that we are, we understand that a 5% rate of return, what is the real value add that that's bringing to the table for somebody, right? So we have the assets, we know where they are. Uh, the big question, and this is the conversation that we certainly can help you and talk to you more about, really uncovering what is a client's need for care or plan for care. How do they feel about it? 3 to 4% of Americans, 50% have long-term care coverage. I would suggest that if we were to ask everybody's client out there, or all of us, even ourselves, that we feel like we would want to have our long-term care needs or our perceived needs covered at 100%, 100% of us want to do it, right? We would love to have that taken care of. We're seeing it in our lives, whether it's me being the age that I am in my 50s, seeing it with my parents and their friends and my aunts and uncles that are going through health issues, or even within my own peer group, unfortunate things that are happening where some sort of care, having a solution in place makes a lot of sense and could actually be of benefit. So how do we get this 3 or 4%, right? How do we turn your client base into the one where you have a solution in play for 40 to 50 to 60 or even higher as far as the clientele that you work with? 93 million Americans are age over 55. The market's tremendous. And the age range sitting that on this money that you're rolling over, right? You know this. This is your pre-retiree and retiree, 50 to 70 years old. Uh, so we want to view, we're trying to fit the puzzle pieces together and take the information that you have access to and maybe tweak the conversation a little bit. Take a portion of those assets and monies that you see that you're using for these other types of safe money alternative solutions, because cost of care is going to be an asset destruction, right? You at some point, someone will come to you as the trusted financial advisor and say, this occurred and I need X amount of dollars. Where are we getting it from? And we want to be part of the solution. And that's what we're talking to you today about. We're going to go through really conceptually things that you're doing already. Um, you're already having the discussions with your clients. You're doing your annual meetings. You're moving money from one MYGA rate to another, right? So you're working in the MYGA annuity space. You know, clients probably that have monies that are CD, that rainy day money that they're trying to keep on hand for instant access. But what is the value of that? What is the benefit that's coming their way? And a question often is, you as the advisor, I when I talk to advisors, it's like, what should we do with this money? Like, this is what we've been doing, but what should we do? And it's a combination of a discussion, right? You're in the meeting and there's an opportunity there with your client. We just have to phrase the conversation a little bit differently. Um, and we have solutions in play, and we'll go into those a little further in the presentation, that really offer all of what these other solutions to offer, meaning MYGAs, safe money, CD monies, and a whole lot more. Uh, Money typically is going into the MYGA or CD. It's the same outcome over and over. There's no ceiling there. It's a complete blind spot on care. There's nothing there to address potential cost of care in the future. Um, the other option is keeping money in the market. And we would love to say that we can continuously earn people 8, 10, 12% rates of return on their dollars. But you're adding exposure to that money, because long-term care, we don't know when it's going to happen. And it could be at a time where you have money in a market where it's not really viable or it's not the most opportune time to take access to those dollars. Um, Sitting in cash certainly doesn't keep up with any of the cost of health care and whatnot. You're not going to lose money, but you're losing out on that opportunity to leverage those dollars. Um, that's the that's what we want to discuss is how are we really taking some of these dollars and leveraging them for the benefit of the client. Uh, we want to create a new outcome. So what if that same dollar can do more? Um, Steve, why don't you go into this a little bit here? Uh, Bring you in, you being with the Nexus, certainly have a fantastic portfolio of products out there that address all three of these things, but really bring more to the table as far as comparing it to CD, cash, or MYGA opportunities.
Yeah, Keith. Yeah, good job, and thank you for letting me be here today. I would just say that traditionally, it's just really about maybe repositioning the angle a little bit. I think traditionally life insurance has been, people think of it as an expense, something you pay for, you hope you never use. And what we're going to talk about today is just, reposition it. Now it's working for you while you're alive. It's working for you. Gives you some flexibility, gives you some cash value, and you still have what I would like to think, the way I like to think of it is maybe two assets on your balance sheet. Many people, like the idea of having some life insurance, if they die prematurely or they can take care of some things as they get older. But they really like the idea of like, hey, you're telling me, Steve, if I don't die and I have a long-term care event, I have a care event, I have a need, something happens, that way I have additional pool of money that I can access. So if you can advance the slide, so we're talking about, what we're talking about here today is addressing the long-term care need. At the same time, I feel like here at Nexus, we feel like a lot that people still want to have some growth of their money in their policy. You may not think they do, but I think most people, when they're spending money on something, they want to see some cash value in the contract. It doesn't have to be a huge amount, and they want to have some flexibility if they have to get to it. Maybe they're not planning that, but if they have to get to it, there's some flexibility there that they can use that product in some different ways. So, what?
Steve,
Yep.
you
Hmm.
being you were a former advisor, a
Yeah.
lot longer
Yeah.
than I was a former advisor, so you
Yeah.
have a little bit more experience there. How great of an opportunity is this to be able to reposition an asset? You're not restarting anything, right? The money
Right.
is there already. This is not
Yeah.
new money. It's, a smarter
Yeah.
way of using that money. So whether it's a husband and wife that you're working with, or just the mindset of a lot of clients, they don't like they don't like the feeling of you're spending my dollars, right?
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
talked some of we're not actually spending their money because it's already there. We're not asking
Yeah.
them to write a brand new check that's coming out of an
Right.
account that I don't have access to.
Yeah.
So the repositioning opportunity is something that we see quite a bit all the time with annuities being rolled over, whether it's, fixed rate MYGA annuities or fixed index annuities. Um, we just want to add a different component, a little different flavor that's
Yeah.
really going to give that opportunity to provide serious living benefits to that individual.
Yeah. A few things I think of, Keith, you say that, first of all, we're just kind of saying, just, don't go on just autopilot necessarily and roll over existing money. Think about it. I will tell you that, and like I said before, like this screen, basically this screen says to me, it's not just a policy, it's a strategy, right? But like I want to go a little deeper than that, you guys. Um, I want you to really feel this from me that, you're not just making a sale. Listen, the comp, we're going to get into the comp, and it's significant. And I know you're going to get excited about the comp, and that's a wonderful reason to sell the product, the comp. But listen, I went through a situation with my mom. She was in long-term care for 10 years, and it was about 900 grand. And luckily, I've been in the business since 86. I sold her a policy in 91. My dad had passed away. I sold her a policy. I could see the future. The long-term care was new at the time. I went through some New York Life training on it, and I just really saw the big picture, like this could happen. And especially my mom's situation, my dad being gone, I'm like, well, she doesn't have anybody extra to lean on. And I'm really thankful that, when she passed away, it was really important to my mom. Maybe some of you maybe some of you feel this way, or some of your clients feel this way. It was really important to my mom to leave assets to us children. It was really like the number one priority for her. She's was really, really important to her. And after her death, my brothers and sisters finally, they really loved having the long-term care. She was in a great facility, wonderful facility. And by the way, that takes a lot of load off the kids when you have care, and you don't have to worry about your parents as much, and you're not doing the work. It really helps you, do your life, take care of your kids. There's a lot of good things, but like they really realized, they said, "Hey, Steve, we realize now that like they didn't realize she had so much money, which was cool." But my brother said, "Man, I can see now that the reason we're getting more money, Steve, is because you had that policy." So don't just think you're doing something good for yourself, and just don't think of it as like it's another transaction. You're really in a unique position where you can just help the people do something for themselves that they really, really need to do. So, it's just not life insurance anymore. It's just not use it or lose it. A lot of people don't like use it or lose it on long-term care. There's nothing wrong with standalone long-term care. What we're trying to just come up with is more of a creative solution for you at a nexus. So it's not just a death benefit only. It's a living value and a death benefit. Like my family's going to have the money if I die, or if I'm going to have access to the money for care, which is critical. It's a multi-asset, as Keith said. We'll talk more about that. You're going to have some meaningful cash value, and also it's just a way of really a way of just to strategically reposition. It's a repositioning tool more than anything. You're not taking new dollars. You're not like I used to know. One time I made a sale with a guy on something, and his spouse said, "Hey, how much money did you spend?" And he said nothing. And because he didn't really spend anything, we just took what he already had with me and we repositioned it as something else that gave him multiple use, like a Swiss Army knife, maybe give him more than what he had. With the MYGA, nothing wrong with it, but that just gives you interest. What we're talking about is giving you more than that.
I'll add into the mix, not to go too off topic, but this is something that if you've been on some of our webinars in the past, we had talked about, life insurance and the living value as far as a life settlement. That really covers a few of these different options as well. That's another living benefit that can be tapped into to be utilized in some fashion, and creates it as a purposeful asset. Um, so there's so many ways and things, conversations to have regarding this, and we just want to be able to offer the experience and talk through these concepts and ideas and provide illustrations and opportunities, you know, really trying to hit upon three jobs, one strategy. We want to we want to create first that LTC leverage, without tapping into standalone long-term care, which does have a place here and there, but most people have gravitated from not wanting that product because the market's been crushed. Those products don't have guaranteed premiums. We want to offer up the opportunity for asset growth. So we want to keep that same similar feel to the package of what the client's used to, right? We have uncapped indexing strategies here with a 0% floor. So you got upside without market losses. So you're going to see they're not actually seeing money be lost over time. And then the liquidity is the cash value can grow for years and decades if you don't have a long-term care event. But if you do have a long-term care event, then you have the leverage that the insurance company gave you, right? The products that we're going to be talking about, the design is you're creating your dollars going in, creating a death benefit component, and that death benefit is the pool of money that you're protecting for your client. So who doesn't want three benefits compared to one, right? Clients like this conversation. You're bringing them something that they're not having to pay for. I'm giving you this bullet point one. I'm giving you this bullet point two. I'm giving you this bullet point three. And if you compare side by side what you've been showing or talking to people about, and you show a solution like this, let the client decide which direction they want to go. But I will stress having this long-term care component is a huge benefit why
Yeah.
advisors are, looking into this. So Steve, if you want to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, you did a great job with that. I mean, clients don't want lose it or use it. They don't want that. They want leverage for sure. They want flexibility, and they want more from their money than what they already have. That's what we're talking about here.
So we're
So,
gonna
yeah,
we're gonna take a look at a sample here. Um,
yeah, let's get into that. Yeah.
straightforward setup. We're looking at a 55-year-old individual, $100,000 in idle assets. I would say in the planning work that you're doing with your clients, right? Even if you do want to still have money go into these other solutions and you have a bucket of 400,000, well, maybe you should look at 100,000 into something like this. It all doesn't have to be all or nothing repositioning, right? There's different levels of what makes sense for the individuals you're talking about. Uh, but the biggest component here is really first and foremost of those clients that have the assets but lack the plan for protecting against long-term care.
Yeah.
We want to reposition $100,000. We want to get that LTC leverage. We still want to have that principal being protected and to have upside growth opportunity and still working on our behalf. And then in in the end, if you really need to get back, you want to be able to get back some of the money, right? If everything goes really awry and you need to get back access to those dollars, you have a solution that you have that available. So what we have here, and Steve, you'll walk through this. We're going through a male age 55 preferred, and we're repositioning those $100,000 idle assets. So Steve,
Yeah.
you're
Yeah,
fire away.
look how fantastic this is, you guys. You got 100 grand, a simple 100 grand. I mean, and we're getting right off the bat, we have a 4 times leverage, right? That's wonderful. So we got a $400,000 death benefit, and we have that same death benefit is now a long-term care benefit as well, right? In this example, Keith, I believe we took times three. You can take, 2, 3, or 4% on the long-term care. We took 3%. So currently, the client would get $12,000 a month until that $400,000 is gone. Now, you may say to me, Steve, could they take $6,000 a month? They can take that. They just can't take more than the number. So 3%, they can't take more than 12. They want to take less, maybe they don't need $12,000 a month. What's also critical about this plan is its indemnity style. That means they don't have to have any permission. They don't have to send any receipts in. If their spouse is going to take care of them, their kid's going to take care of them, their neighbor's going to take care of them, their grandkid's going to take care of them. They have liquidity now to pay that person to take care of them. That is a wonderful feeling. If you're in need, that's a wonderful feeling. Like anytime in life, you have the money to do it and you can keep your dignity to get it done. And you don't have to rely on somebody else to take care of you. Now, as we talked about, though, you'll see here that we're running these at 6.3%. This product has a lot of different, what we'll get into today. Keith can get into it with you, or we can get into it more later. There's a lot of different indexes that we have built inside this contract that you can pick from. We would highly recommend you diversify those indexes. Our indexes as well in this product are contractually guaranteed to be uncapped. We show 6.3. That's as high as the regulators will show us. It could do less than that, you guys. It could do more than that. But even at 6.3, you can see here, in about 7 years, I'm back to what I put into the contract. The cash value is always available here if I need it. I can access it. Like he said, I have an event, I need a liquidity, but I know in 7 years I could walk away with the same money I put in there. Right.
And Steve, I would add if we're comparing and we're going to pick on MYGAs, right? The
Yeah.
5-year MYGA that we keep on re-rolling. So yes, in the first 5 years, if you're looking at that cash value, even though a MYGA has surrender value, right? It has a surrender charge associated with it. You know, if we keep on just re-rolling that and you get 10 years potentially of uncapped indexing component internally, these numbers can be double if you get 10%, 11% return,
Could be.
right? So walking through those components with your client, that is helpful for them to understand.
Right.
And so we want to bring that cash value availability with a lot more upside than any MYGA product out there.
Yeah.
Uh, and then the leverage, right? You're getting $3 back for your $1 put in to create that total pool, 1 to 4, right? Cash indemnity, you only have to trigger the benefit, and you can get that paid out on a monthly basis. Um, so this is like how many pieces of this pie do you want? If I have a pie that has 5 slices, I have $500,000. Does it make sense to put one or $200,000 into something like this? It's doing the same thing, if not just better overall than some of those products being utilized. And I would just do the side by side comparison. So one of the components here, um, the long-term care rider, we have a little bit more detail going through how that works. Um, you'll see towards the bottom here, we got as Steve mentioned. Well, first off, look at what it covers, right? It's a cash indemnity plan. You got home health care. That's where most people's plan of care starts. Steve, I don't know if your mom, when she was going through what she was going through, how that progression occurred. Ultimately, she went to a facility. But in your experience and in mine, most people they want to start out at home as long as possible. And having a cash indemnity benefit allows you to pay for family, friends, and other expenses. But then you transition, right? You may end up having to go to adult daycare, and that may transition into nursing home care, and then unfortunately may transfer to hospice. Um, Long-term care total pool 400,000. We had a 3% benefit on this. So the calculation of what the maximum amount available is, it's the lesser of 3% of 400,000 or column B. And in this instance, is that 12,000 a month. So
Yeah. And I'd like to point out here, we're talking about a primo carrier. We're not talking about a B carrier. We're talking about Nationwide here. I mean, who doesn't know Nationwide? Peyton Manning, the jingle, mutual company, great assets, strong balance sheet. This is a quality company and a quality product that you can be very, very proud to sell. With on top of that, with the Nexus innovation to go with it, you're getting the best out there is, the best of both worlds.
we're trying to check off every box you can,
You bet.
right?
Let's check off that comp box, Keith. You want to do that?
Yeah, that's that if we well, I would like to say if you satisfy the client's needs and goals
Yep.
and you bring them with a high quality carrier, high quality product and solution, and they're winning, right? You're helping the clients win, then certainly we can talk about how this helps the advisor win as well if we're doing the right job, right? We want to make sure that that's first and foremost it's the right thing to do, or right conversation to have.
Yep.
So this screen right here, a little bit of what we reiterated before is, the illustration showing 6.3%. You see that in the top right-hand corner. We see the pool, the farthest column to the right. That's the $400,000 death benefit, which is your pool for long-term care. We're accelerating that at 3%, so that's 12,000 a month. Steve brought out, year 7 at 6.3%, your client will have surrender value that's equal to what they put into it. Their accumulation value is higher and could be much higher based on how the uncapped indexing performs over time. And if we're continuously just rolling these assets over at a 5% rate of return, look at year 15. Now you're showing cash value, if you never tapped into the death benefit for long-term care, of 142,516, right? So you're still showing your client earned dollars. The highlight here on the left, the $100,000 goes in, and Steve can talk about this compared to compensation of a MYGA. Anyone that's on here that has offered their clients those products know that commission rate is in the 3 to 5% range, depending on what products you're using. but Steve can talk about this 16.7% on the left.
Yeah, that's what your comp is. I mean, on $100,000 sale, you're making over 16 grand. I mean, that's a pretty nice sale. Like Keith said, we always want it in the financial service business, in my opinion. Our need for making money or making money and helping our clients should be pretty equal. If I love making money on a scale of 1 to 10, that's a 10. Helping my client should be 7, 8, 9, or 10. If I love helping my client on a scale of 1 to 10, 10, making money should be 7, 8, 9, or 10. There's nothing wrong with that. As you can see here, one of these sales a month, you're putting 16 plus $1,000 in your pocket. That's significant revenue to your client. And as Keith mentioned, also an important part is the clients buying these type of products, they want to see some growth on their money. A lot of products out there, you don't see much growth in their money. It's just kind of repositioning. They get the care benefit or whatever. This here now, you're going to have the increase in, of course, you have the cash value liquidity, like we talked about. You got the long-term care, but you're putting over 16 in this sale here. You're putting over $16,000 in your pocket. That's six for 100 grand. That's a significant sale. That's where the opportunity is here.
Guys, is this a good point for me to start asking some questions? Because they're
Yeah.
starting to stack up.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. Let's take a second and go through
Let's
some
do
of
it.
them. Yeah.
First one I want to ask is about that 3% LTC distribution. Is that lifetime guaranteed?
So it's 3%. If as
Yeah.
long as they trigger the benefit in each and every year that they trigger it, which is the traditional long-term care, if you're unable to do 2 of 6 activities of daily living or have a cognitive impairment, your total pool is the 400,000. It's based off of the death benefit. So that is how much money they have available. If you were to go through the 12,000 a month till that 400,000 is gone, right? So there may be some times during that where maybe you go on care for a year and a half and then you fall off and you have whatever your remaining bucket is based on what you left as far as death benefit there.
Got it. And then how does this
So
cost?
sorry, I mean the rates are guaranteed though, right? It's not
Yeah.
you're not
Right.
going to have a cost of insurance or rate increase for the long-term care rider or anything like that. That's not going to go up.
Thanks, Keith. Could you talk a little bit about how the cost may change for a 65-year-old? I know we're talking about, what did we quote, a 55-year-old on this one, right?
So great question, and I would pose this. A lot of these cases, the way they're designed and developed is really dependent upon what faucet your client has available to put into this. Because we've only stressed and talked about the fact that we're just looking at non-qualified monies that may be going into a MYGA. So it depends on what's available. This is a 55-year-old. Yeah, 65-year-old, you're going to need more money or you're going to get less benefit, right? But I will say there's a lot of opportunity still to use qualified money and take a qualified asset, roll it into a SPIA, 10-pay SPIA to help fund this and do this over 10 years as opposed to doing a single premium. So there's a lot of ways to go about it. I can't give you a specific answer other than the generalization that someone 10 years older is going to require more money to get the same benefit. But they also have more assets in theory to tap into to help fund these types of solutions. So we really want to focus on the merits of the conversation, right?
Yeah,
The reasons why we're doing it or having the discussion, right? So
I would add, Keith, maybe this is the back of your mind. Hey, I've heard some horror stories. Life insurance is hard to get. Hey, that definitely can happen depending on your client's health. But many of these cases, maybe 70% of these cases get through in an accelerated underwriting. You can do, it's all EAP. Definitely do EAP always. It's a different department. It goes through faster. The turnaround time with Nationwide is about 22 days currently. If you're 55 and younger, you can do up to 5 million with no blood or urine. Face amount wise, if you're 55 and older, or excuse me, up to 60, 60 and older, you can do up to 1 million of face amount with no blood or urine. So they'll just basically do the underwriting electronically. They'll check your medical record, check your driving history, they check your prescription history. And you might find that these cases may get through underwriting in 3 days, 7 days. I've seen all kinds of those things happen. It could take longer if you have impairments, etc. You can work with Keith and their team there. They do a great job. But don't let the horror story scare you on these products.
Excellent.
Maureen, a couple more questions?
Yeah, a couple
Right.
more. Since this policy is do you say that as a MEC or is it an MEC? What is
Yeah,
the
Mech.
taxation on the LTC distributions?
The taxation on the distribution is tax-free. It's run off of, being below the IRS per diem. That's tax, that the government's allowing you to take
Yeah.
tax-free. Um, any of the solutions that fall into this realm, even if we were to look at some hybrid, what we call hybrid long-term care plans, like as an advisor, you may be familiar with Care Matters 2 or Secure Care 4. Those are all modified endowment contracts. So they're designed that way to then add on these LTC rider protection benefits. But the benefit itself for long-term care is tax-free.
And the death benefit. The MEC does not affect the long-term care or the death benefit. It's tax-free.
And then when we're talking about nursing home care, is memory care part of that?
Yes.
Cool.
Any kind of care is part of it. Yeah.
And again, the beauty of having a cash indemnity rider like this, it could be down the street care. We don't, it doesn't matter. We don't care really, right? As
Yeah.
long as you can trigger the benefit, you can utilize that money coming in. Ideally, you want to have someone that's going to be, responsible with that money and actually use it for care and other reinvestment opportunities until you get to the point of where you're going to be needing the full 12,000. So cash indemnity opens up that opportunity to just plan your care accordingly and try and stay in the home as long as possible until you're just not feasible anymore.
So Keith, we have someone that's really focusing in on that LTC distribution benefit. So they're questioning, if the policy has a 400,000 and it's at 12,000 a month, that would only last approximately 3 years, a little less. And then the second part to that question is what kind of LTC did you use for your mom's 10 years?
Yeah. Yeah, the amount of money you need is just up to you. Like, right, the $400,000 is just, you can do $200,000 in the policy or 300,000. You can do the planning. The concept here is just about the mindset shift, right? And what you can do with the life insurance versus some other contract, or what you can do. The concept is about a MYGA or a hybrid. It's about just taking a different look at how to solve a problem. The problem can be solved with 200 grand, 300 grand, 400 grand. I get it. 400 grand that might be enough money. It might need, it's better than nothing for some people, right? They may need 800, whatever they need. So you can do anything you want, buy as much of it as you can want or can qualify for the client.
Well, Stephen,
Um,
to this one specific, just to that question though, it's your total pool is 400,000 on this example, and the max you can get paid out is 12,000 a
yeah,
month. You don't have to get 12,000 a month. You can start by getting 4,000 a month.
yeah,
Mm.
So there's no, like, if you went through the 12,000 a month, that's 100, then you're going to go through your 400,000 much quicker, right? But a lot of people don't have that cost. Like in my area, like nursing home care is 10,000 a month. Most people are not starting their care straight into the nursing home. You're having someone come to your house, and maybe it's just a family member taking care of you 2 to 3 times a week, right? That cost is so much less. So one of the things I'd like to add to this that we use a lot, and I would recommend everyone to do it, is Nationwide actually has some fantastic tools showing cost of care maps. And we can go to your specific zip code or where a client may want to have their care taken care of. And it'll give you the price points of all these different forms of care. But what I love about it is it tells you what the cost of it is today. But more importantly, you can slide rule it over and it's going to show you what the cost is in 12 years now.
yeah,
Because we're buying something that we're looking at, you're never really, unless the clients have the assets, you're really never going to utilize a product to get 100% coverage. This is about taking the pot of monies available and solutions that you have in place, and can we section off a quarter or whatever, protect that money, give you the advisor time to spend 4 or 5 years maneuvering through this with the other assets. Maybe it's dialing down investment risk. Maybe it's, having a house or property that you want to sell at the high of the market as opposed to at a downturn. We're just buying time. And again, this is money that you already have discussions with your clients about. So let's leverage some of that discussion. It's not a product play at all. The product has to be understood. We are using a product to bring these to the table, but it's a conversation. It's a repositioning strategy, and you're already talking to people where these things are sitting in your book of business.
Yeah, give them an option too. Bring them both out and see which one they like. Yeah, that question about my mom's policy back in the day in '91 when I sold it to her is standalone, the kind you hear about, but that's all we had available. Back in the day, I sold it to her. I sold a lot of those contracts. I still have, I don't, I sold my book of business, but I still have a lot of clients that call me. Unfortunately, a lot of those contracts have obviously gone up. It's kind of lose it or use it. If you don't use it, you lost it. You paid your money. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, I'm a fan of taking care of long-term care any way you can. Listen to you guys. However you solve long-term care, I don't care. It's a thing you need to budget for. You need to budget for long-term care with your clients. If you're not having a conversation with them, you need to. And I don't care how you solve it. This is one way of solving it. If you'd like another way to solve it, God bless you. If you like the other way to solve it, God bless you. I just think long-term care needs to be budgeted for. If I told you that the best use of life insurance in general, it's all about transferring risk and indemnifying the loss. That's what insurance is about. We're transferring the risk, we're indemnifying the loss. We have a big insurance company that has deep pockets there instead of me using my own pockets, leverage. Number two, the best type of insurance that we use mathematically is the chance of having a claim is low, but the event is high. Me dying prematurely when I'm Keith's age is low, but that death causes a huge amount of problems in my family or in my business. Becoming disabled, having a car accident, end up in the hospital, the probability is low, but it's expensive to have a surgery in the hospital. That's the best use of insurance, okay? If we agree with that, that's the best use of insurance. That's why we should use insurance, is we're transferring risk away from ourselves. Things that are unlikely to happen. My roof getting blown off is unlikely to happen, but it's a huge expense to me. I insure that. Now, just think about long-term care. The chance of it happening is extremely high. It's not a low chance of happening. Whatever numbers you want to argue about, I don't care, but it's probably somewhere between 70, 90% chance of your client, your parents, your aunt and uncle, your friends, Keith, having a long-term care event, right? So if a low probability of having an event and insuring it makes sense, how about having a big chance of having it and a big bill to go with it? You need to be thinking about, all of you need to be thinking about, what am I going to do down the road to budget for that and plan accordingly? And what we're saying is here, this is one really unique way of doing it, right? But not the only way of doing it. That's my soapbox for you. Because I'm going to tell you something, you guys. It's coming. And if you don't have the money and plan for it, it sucks. Your kids are going to be working, helping you. They're going to get sick over it, right? You're not going to get care because you don't have the money. You're going to stay home longer. A lot of bad things happen. When you have flexibility and money available for problems like anything in life, it's a wonderful thing.
So Steve, your approach to this is great because you have firsthand experience, but this is an emotional conversation to kickstart it, right? These are the questions to ask clients, what they're concerned about and how they want to go ahead and address those. So we can help certainly with that. There's some strategies and conversation pieces that we have regarding that. We kind of talked about the client profile, who this fits, addressing all the red flags. We feel like we have the product and solution and the design that addresses any of the things that might come up in that regard. And again, it starts with your book of business. Clients are already there. Uh, so 2 questions that change the meeting and set the tone. Use these 2 and you'll get so many conversation paths to go down. What's your plan if care is ever needed? And do you want your assets used for care or protected from it? Tremendous questions to be able to generate this activity. And again, you can do this at any annual meeting. I would say, as an advisor, you want to check your box that you had this conversation and they decided that they didn't want to do it or they did do it, right? And document that. Because a lot of people don't ask themselves these questions.
And one thing, Keith, I'll add here, you don't have to just do this product with 100 grand. This is just one sales idea, 100 grand, right? It's kind of a comp sales idea, a MYGA sales idea. But could I take this product and annual pay it? Sure. Could I take this product and monthly pay it? Sure, you can do that as well.
Yeah, 1, 5, 10, 15, 20 pays, they're all available.
Yep.
So within your, you don't need leads for this. Assets are already in your pockets being managed or maneuvered. Bullet point 1, look within your book of business. Every annual review is an opportunity to check that box for a long-term care conversation and really dig deeper beyond the surface level. And any maturing assets, even if you have a MYGA that is maturing, there's validity to having the conversation of, do I just take this out, pay the tax on whatever gain I had, and reposition it?
Yeah, Keith, you could even do 1035. Your clients may be older. They have a life insurance policy that has some cash, right? They don't really need the death benefit anymore. They can roll this over and do the same thing with it. So it's just, you can get the money from a lot of different places to make this happen.
So the opportunity is tremendous. You have the clients, you know where the assets are, and the timing's just right with how much money's available. So we look forward to, partner up and having these ongoing discussions and strategy sessions to be able to bring to you a variety of different opportunities that will help address this. Again, what Steve mentioned, this is just one opportunity, one solution that we see a lot out there. So our conversations could take us in other directions as well, but we'll be there to help you out.
Hey, Keith, what do you do with clients that you're talking with that, you just know they're not going to qualify for LTC or anything like that? What would you suggest?
Well, in that particular instance, if we know that, and we do pre-screen, we do talk about health and underwriting ahead of time, there are some simpler avenues with annuity products that have long-term care components to it, and their health questions are 2 or 3 questions as opposed to other things. So that's the natural transition into that type of product. Well, if we can't fit into what we're talking about today, well, maybe we can fit into this product. So then we'd have that conversation and run through what the elements are and see about using those products as an opportunity.
Great. So I just want to take a minute to say, everyone, you can book a time with Keith because I have had questions on how to get in touch. His phone number is on the screen, 781-919-2357. Feel free to email him or take your phone and just scan your QR right there, and that'll get you on his calendar. And that's how you can get to Steve as well. Keith will be able to work with you and then, help make those connections that you're going to need.
Well said,
Awesome.
Maureen.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Guys, again, the key is knowing how to identify the right client, position the strategy, and design the case the right way. So Keith can help on all counts there. And he's got direct access to Steve and a Nexus on top of that. But reach out to Keith. Good guy to deal with, as you can tell from the conversation today. And we'll have another webinar in a couple weeks here. But thank you for attending. And again, reach out to Keith with any questions. Steve, thanks for being here. Really appreciate the expertise. Keith, thank you so much, sir. And Maureen as well.
Steve, thank you. Glenn, thank you. Thank you for everyone for hopping on. Look forward to having future conversations with you.
There you go.
Sell some stuff, you guys. Help your clients out.
Right on.
All
Have
right.
a great Wednesday, everybody.
Cheers,
Ciao.
everybody. Thank you.